Not all the records you can achieve in a sport like basketball have to do with your skill. Many times they are simply physical characteristics. Such is the case of Manute Bol, the player who has the maximum height record as a registered NBA player. Of course, in his personal life, he was also known as a great benefactor and as a father of 10 children. And he also had a life before basketball. It's even been said that he killed a lion, and his real age is also in doubt. Many myths that can be investigated, no doubt, but apart from that, was Manute Bol a good player? If you want to know, stay with us till the end of the video and we will tell you the answer you're wondering. But before we start, make sure to subscribe down below and hit the bell icon to get notified when we post our videos. Some start playing basketball because they saw it on TV, others because in their neighborhoods they have access to the courts, and others simply because they are tall and it seems like their natural destiny. This was the case of Manute Bol, who grew up in Sudan and was a member of the Dinka tribe, who are, on average, the tallest human beings in the world. Manute's mother and sister were 6 feet tall, his father was 6'10", and his grandfather was supposedly 7 feet 10 inches tall. The young Manute grew up without a proper education, spending his time caring for the family's livestock, which was the main currency of the Dinka people. Later, while working for the army, he started playing basketball on the military team because he was too tall for football, which was his main choice. He was discovered by Don Feely, who in 1982 sent Bol to Cleveland, where he was under the tutelage of Kevin Mackey, head coach of Cleveland State University. Mackey saw Bol's potential and began preparing him to play in college, since no one, not even Manute himself, knew how old he was. Can you believe that? Sounds logical though, because nobody can read an almanac when they first come out of the womb, right? Mackey gave him a birthday, October 16, 1962, declaring him a 19-year-old to be eligible to play basketball. But he believed that Bol was actually much older, and could be in his 30s. Because come on, no one would admit a player who is just starting out beyond his 30th year. Manute was probably in his 40s or 50s when he played in the NBA, said Mackey. The problem is, he didn't even speak English and had serious trouble reading it, so he couldn't register at Cleveland State and never played a game there. Instead, he tried in the 1983 NBA draft, despite being a rookie in basketball and not knowing the language. However, his only asset, height, was enough for him to get drafted. The Clippers took a chance in the 5th round of the 1983 NBA draft, 97th in total, but the NBA ruled Bol ineligible and invalidated the election. After being rejected by both the NBA and the NCAA, Bol began playing Division II basketball at the University of Bridgeport, where he averaged 22 points, 5 assists, 13.5 rebounds, and 7.1 blocks per game. So much so that it was hard to find tickets to see him play. He soon got national publicity after his picture ended up in the papers. And even though he was still poorly trained and could have used a few more years of college basketball, he came back for the draft so he could support his family in Sudan. This time he was selected in the 31st place by the Washington Bullets, becoming the first African-born player in the NBA and at the same time the tallest player in history. Bol became an instant sensation and one of the most popular players in the league. Every fan wanted a picture with a guy his height, and every reporter wanted to talk to him too. And that's when the story began of how he killed a lion with a spear when his professional basketball days hadn't begun yet. Although this hasn't been officially confirmed. We're sorry we can't contribute anything to the legend, but it's not hard to believe, is it? There are even rumors that a friend made up the story when he was bored. In short, it is possible that he did, and that he is a phenomenon thanks to his height, but is Manute really a good basketball player? As far as basketball is concerned, Manute was not good on offense and scored less than 4 points per game in his rookie season. He was not very skilled and was not powerful enough to deal with opponents who came in and outplayed him by 50 points or more. Despite being the tallest player in history, Manute was extremely thin and weighed just over 200 pounds. However, because of his odd length and surprising agility, Bol was a defensive presence from the moment he entered the NBA. He averaged 5 blocks per game in his rookie season, which is the second highest block average in NBA history. Manute stayed in Washington for 3 years and made many headlines and magazine covers, even with a gradual reduction in playing time after his 1-year job. Although the novelty wore off a bit, he remained a popular figure because his height and unusual physical build were fascinating to many. He learned English and became much more accessible to fans and was adored by his teammates. After Washington, he spent 2 years with the Golden State Warriors, and then the next 3 years with the Philadelphia 76ers, where he developed a great relationship with Charles Barkley, whom he lovingly called Charlie. Charles Barkley once said that if everyone in the world was a Manute Bol, it's a world I'd want to live in because he's so smart and kind. But the problems with his game hadn't gone away. He was still very thin and could not dominate anyone in the paint. although on the other hand, he made baskets mainly from the back. In defense, he was still good, although his blocking numbers started to decrease. And also, where he had the most memorable game of his career on March 3, 1993 against the Phoenix Suns, Manute Bol made 6 3-pointers, an NBA record, which was mind-boggling considering that he only made 10 threes in his previous 3 seasons combined. Can you imagine if he had practiced more often? It could have been perfect for his career, and today we would still be talking about him much more than his height or the lions he killed or ate. Manute stayed in the NBA for 2 more years, playing sporadically for Miami and for his 3 previous teams, Philadelphia, Washington, and Golden State, where he played his last minutes in the NBA. In his second stint in DC, he teamed up with another 7'7" player, George Murasan, and became the tallest pair of teammates in his entire career. Ball leveraged 2.6 points, 4.2 rebounds, 3-point assists, and 3-point blocks per game. In 18.7 minutes on the court, his 2,086 blocks is at number 14 for most blocks in the career, and Ball is the only player who has made more blocks than points scored, 1,599. To this day, he is still synonymous with height and length. Together with Nuristan, he is still the tallest player to have played an NBA game. His legacy is more cultural than basketball related, and he will always be known as a very tall person instead of a good basketball player. However, despite having a small impact on the NBA court, he had a significant impact outside the NBA. The new Ball was making efforts to improve conditions in his native Sudan and gave almost all his money to various organizations in his country to help those in need. He created the Real Ring Foundation to raise funds for Sudanese refugees. He was also involved in ending the civil war in Sudan and building schools and promoting education. However, he was no stranger to alcohol and gambling during his career, and because of that and his charity work, he soon ran out of money once his career was over. Still, as many times before, his height associated with his name was an asset he could always count on, and that's why he made several promotional attempts to raise money. He signed a one-day contract with an ice hockey team, even though he couldn't skate. He also appeared as a horse racing rider and a boxer in celebrity boxing against former football player William the Refrigerator Perry. All the money he won went to Sudanese refugees, and that is where the true legacy of Manute Bol remains. Unfortunately, Manute died in 2010 from kidney failure after spending some time in Sudan helping those in need while he was seriously ill. He gave his life for his people, and 7 months after his death, South Sudan was declared independent. A part of his legacy is also currently in the NBA, in the form of his son, Bol Bol, 7'2", who was drafted in 2019 by the Denver Nuggets. Bol Bol is much more skilled than his father, but similar to Manute. He is extremely tall and thin, but to a lesser degree than Manute. Bol Bol hasn't given his best yet, we just have to see if he can beat his father on the court, although perhaps it's better to hope that he will try to match his father's humanitarian vocation, which is everything anyone could aspire to. We hope you enjoyed the video. Check out these 2 videos you see on the screen. We picked them out just for you.